Welcome to the United Show. Welcome to Duke's United Show, should I say. And today we have a special guest, StatMan Cam. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Great to be here. Cheers for the invite, and cheers to yourself and Steve for sorting it all out.
Yeah, of course. We've seen your work. We've seen what you do, how you break down games. And look, I love breaking down games. So I thought, you know what? What's better than to get you on the show and start chewing the fat about every single thing that happened against Liverpool. We're all buzzing about that game and how they, took apart Liverpool and done a great job. So really want to see how you break them down, and we can just talk about it as we go through. So really, I'll let you take away and get started with it all. Share your screen and share your stats with us, and let's take it from there.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think right from the start, obviously with the team selection and the way Liverpool play, we knew that really what we've got to do is try and stop their fullbacks wherever possible. So that's not just sort of final third chance creation, but also when they're playing out from the back. So that we knew that was going to be really important right from the start. So screen share should be up now. If you could,
yeah, I've added it to your stream.
Perfect.
Go.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone can see this. And so right from the start, if we've got Liverpool in the blue here, we know that when they're playing out from the back, they like to get the ball to the fullbacks as early as possible. And from the start, Ten Hag's game plan was to stop that happening. So the idea then with the pressing, obviously it was a 4-2-3-1 mainly out of possession. You could maybe look at it as a 4-4-2 with the sort of Rashford and Bruno playing as two strikers, because they did interchange a fair bit. But the main idea, the main sort of role was that you give Gomez and Van Dijk a little bit of time on the ball. And obviously when the ball does go to one side, then Rashford sort of drives in and sort of tries to lock the play into one half, either left or right half. And then from there, as soon as that ball goes wide, the press is triggered. So it starts really narrow to try and prevent any ball straight into midfield. Obviously, Bruno's really tight on Jordan Henderson, and the wingers stay narrow, so there's no easy balls into midfield. But as soon as that ball goes wide, Sancho and Elanga, the intensity from those guys was fantastic in getting out straight away. So they don't have time to pick their heads up and get a good ball in down the line. And that was key right throughout the game, really.
Yeah, so that was pretty much how we set up defensively out off the ball and pressing. And we were able to do that, I would say, more because the fullbacks that we have here, you have Malacia, who's able to push up as well. And he knows that if he does have to turn around and recover, he's got the ability to do that. And then you have the same thing I noticed was the same thing with Martinez and Varane. They were able to help each other. And I think Martinez he pretty much was the one who went out and challenged things first. And then there was times where he was in a little bit of trouble, and what you saw, Varane covering over to take care of business. And I love what I saw there. And I could just see their happiness to help each other, clapping hands and going, yeah, well done, boys. And it was like, yeah, that's what you want to see. When people do that, it puts fear into the other teams, when they think, wow, they're together. They really know what they're doing today. I got my work cut out. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. When you talk about everyone being together, it was really important that it wasn't just the front four in the press as well. So let's say Liverpool worked out the ball to the left side to Robertson. Obviously, when the ball's in that position, you're going to have Diaz on that side dropping in. He's going to go quite wide to try and receive the ball, get in some sort of space. Then you're going to have the midfielder on that side, normally Milner, although sometimes Firmino and Milner did switch during the game as well. But what was really nice to see from United is that once sort of Sancho, in this case, has got out there really tight, straight away you've got McTominay as tight as he possibly can be on James Milner. And you've got Dalot fully tight on Luis Diaz. So there's no space anywhere. And if Firmino's still here, then Martinez will take him. Varane will push on to cover in that area. And it really made sure that whatever happened, even if the Liverpool fullback did get a ball to a teammate, that teammate was under pressure the second they receive it. Straight away, there's no time at all to turn. And that was really important, because if you let them turn, that's when the likes of Diaz and Salah can start running at players. And that's when you've got a problem. So it was important that it wasn't just the front four. It wasn't just the wingers. It was the entire team ready and on the same wavelength, on the same page. It was fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Let's just take a look at, we've got a few people saying StatMan Cam is a legend. Big up Bath. Big up Nath, you mean? Okay, good. I wondered who Bath is. Looking forward to this. King Eric says, the legends that are Nathan and Cam. Well, good. Cam knows his stuff. Seen him on UV, of course. We all love UV as well. Firmino was nullified the whole game. And that's the thing. When you were just talking there, Firmino is a different type of striker. So with that, we know he's not going to run you in behind. So we could afford to push up a lot as well. And it was just an amazing display. And that's what happens when everybody is able to do their job one-on-one. This is what happens. And what I noticed, I was watching Liverpool at the back as well. I was thinking, how are you guys going to do under this kind of pressure? And they did pretty well, to be fair. For the most part, they did quite well passing it around at the back, but they never really was able to penetrate us. As you said, Dalot played one of his best games, and Malacia just plays how Malacia plays. So he was just tenacious and kept Salah in his pocket, mate. He was totally sitting in his pocket, and I was just loving it. Every time getting a challenge in, ball out of play. And the one thing I loved, which everyone's talking about, is Martinez's first challenge, and then he gets up and barges him a little bit and says, "What? Come on." And I love that. I love that little bit of, it's off the ball stuff that you just don't like your defense. When I was a striker, I hated having you don't want to play against a player who wants to do dirty things to you, if you get what I mean. Step on your toes, barge you when you don't need to be barged. The ball's not even near you and they're stopping you running. You're like, what are you doing? And then you have to learn the tricks of the trade to get the better of them. So that was nice to see anyway. I was happy with that. So yeah, we've got, what have we got here? We've got a few more comments. Let's just see what he said. Cam is a legend of the game. Big up, Duke. Who's the Facebook user? If you can change your name so we can see who you are, it'd be great as well. But yeah, okay. Right. So we're talking about the midfield. One of the things I noticed before the game, and when I was looking at the team, I was like, wait a minute. Liverpool's midfield are looking old. They're looking not really mobile. So we can take advantage of this because
Oh, is Nate gone, or is it just?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah, got you. Yeah.
My phone just rang and it came through on my computer, so it's cut me off. But yeah, I was talking about the midfield. They were looking very slow in previous games. When you watch Liverpool, that is not the case. You're looking at them and going, "Wow, they're superior to us in pretty much defense, midfield, and attack." But on Monday, I was looking at it going, you know what? We have a better midfield three than Liverpool today, and we can make that count. And as well as the pace in three positions rather than one or two positions, it was a killer. I'm going to have to, if you could just talk about that quickly, I'm going to make sure that does not ring here.
Yeah. In terms of the Liverpool midfield there, I think it's really interesting because I think I've looked at Liverpool midfield in recent years and always sort of said these guys are workhorses, but they're not great on the ball. And in terms of the way we set up to press, that sort of exemplified it really, with Rashford giving their centre-backs time and space on the ball, knowing that, and the wingers starting fairly narrow to stop balls into midfield. But the reason they were able to jump out so quickly was knowing that if it did go into midfield, it's not that big of a problem because Henderson, Milner and Harvey Elliott, they're not as big of a danger. I think if Thiago's playing, if Naby Keita's playing, it's a different game. But even with them being workhorses, as Nathan said, in terms of the mobility dropping off a little bit in recent seasons, a massive part of Jordan Henderson's job when he's playing in this sort of right-hand 8 role in the team, and Fabinho's behind him, a massive part of Henderson's role there is supporting Trent in every way possible. So sometimes that means on the ball, he goes wide to sort of try and drag out the winger, giving Trent a bit of space inside in the half space there so he can create from that sort of position, play balls over the top like that sort of cross. But more importantly than sort of the in-possession stuff, it's out of possession. When Trent is being a little bit lazy, when he's sort of maybe caught out a little bit higher up the pitch, a massive part of Henderson's job for a long time has been getting back in that space and covering. And the important bit there is that if Henderson's doing that as one of the 8s in midfield, it means Fabinho doesn't have to be dragged too far out of position. Now, when Harvey Elliott's playing, he's not going to do that to the same level Henderson's doing it. He offers a few different things, but he's not going to be able to get back. He's not going to be able to cover Trent the same way Henderson's got because he's not got that understanding, that relationship on the pitch. And that means then the defensive mid, whoever that is, in this case it was Henderson, has to come across all the time, and that vacates space elsewhere. So it's an interesting one where I think both in possession, they obviously missed Thiago and Keita a lot, but out of possession as well, I think the understanding and some of the relationships that they've formed in previous years, it just wasn't there because they've had to shake up the team. And obviously, James Milner as well is at his age. He's not as mobile. He's not the sort of bursts off the line that you really need. He's not got that anymore. And I think we saw from a lot of his play on the ball as well, rather than trying to sort of beat in that midfield to sort of beat a player to get on the half turn, he was constantly rotating into the spaces Firmino left so that he wasn't the one ending up on the ball. So I think that was a conscious thing as well, trying to avoid giving the ball to Milner in midfield from Liverpool's perspective. They don't want him to get on it because they know he's not going to do anything with it. So that was quite interesting as well.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and it played out exactly how we wanted. We had a lot of joy putting in the likes of Elanga, who hit the post early on. I thought he could have scored, should have probably scored. But when you look at it again, it was a good fin. It was a good try, to be fair. It was just unlucky to hit the post. I think he did everything right. It's just on another day, I think he'll score that. And then Rashford as well, getting through and almost getting a goal early on. He was looking very dangerous, but just maybe lacking that what Sancho had for his goal. I think if Rashford now puts that in, that comes with a bit of confidence, though, you know. But I think there's certain players like Sancho, I don't think he even needs to have the confidence to do that. But with a Rashford, you notice he shoots when he really knows that the player's right in front of him at times. You think, why are you shooting? Open up an angle, fake him, let him dive, and then shoot. Or even open up an angle, then get your shot off quickly. But a lot of times he likes to get the shot off at the moment where it's really not on. You've got to do some kind of skill, a drop shoulder of some sort to create that space. But look, he's getting better and better. I'm really happy with him. One thing, though, I noticed, Van Dijk, he don't look the same as he's been to me. We go back to the defence, but he don't look the same. Like, when he first came, just before that injury, I would say, I was looking at Liverpool and thinking, they're never going to concede a goal. Like, it's not often they're going to concede a goal from open play or something, because he's just got the whole team marshaled at the back and everyone's so high intensity. It was just no chance. But now looking at this game, I'm thinking, wait, what's happened to him? We're looking like we can get through this team quite easily. Like, I was very shocked at how easily we could get in behind them. And then I was very shocked at how he was just standing there with his hands behind his back. It reminded me of like a Lindelof and Maguire, how they've been defending recently, where they just stood off their striker and let him get shots off with maybe 5-6 yards of space. Didn't make no sense to me. Did you notice the similar kind of things with Van Dijk, or is it just me?
No, I think everyone's seeing it now. I think since his injury, he's come back and he's not been the same. It's a bit like he's almost playing within himself, because he knows he's got that reputation now as being this unstoppable just beast of a centre-back. No one can get past him. So now he's trying. So it's almost like he's trying so hard to protect the reputation that he doesn't want to make a tackle for just fear of missing the tackle or fear of the guy getting past him. He's almost scared of it. He's scared of his own reputation in a sense. And I think that's the biggest problem, because you see it all the time now. He's so passive defending. He doesn't want to go and actually do anything in case he gets beat. And it is a big problem. And that's something that United played off. And again, it's a big part of what we did again was with our pressing. We used that as an offensive weapon in a lot of ways. So again, if we use the example of the ball coming out left here, Diaz peeling off, Milner going into that half space there. And then when we engage, let's say as soon as that ball, so Dallow's really high, really early on Luis Diaz, that ball goes in there. Scott McTominay pinches it there in that area. And then as soon as that happens, what we did, and it's made a big difference from previous games, rather than passing sideways or backwards, you hit that gap straight away. So, that chance for Elanga was pretty much straight in that gap from McTominay. I think he gave that it was Bruno somewhere there. And
I think Bruno, the one that he played across to Bruno, played across,
and then it was Elanga somewhere here, and he ends up having that chance. But the important bit there is that the quick pressing into the quick transition, knowing that realistically, if Van Dijk doesn't commit properly, there's a high chance that ball goes in the opposite side, and Bruno's able to sweep that into Elanga. So it's nice to see the pressing being used as an offensive weapon as well. But yeah, with Van Dijk, definitely, he's not the same player. And I think as a player, are there times when you sort of, as a striker, would you study defenders? Did you notice that sort of thing when they've maybe dropped a bit off their game, when maybe the media haven't even picked up on it yet? People haven't picked up on it, but you've seen maybe clips from recent games and you're thinking, you know what, I can get something here.
Yeah, a lot of the time, we always have, the pre-match, and we're talking about every single player, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And sometimes they bring things up like that. Look, he's not the same as he used to be. He doesn't like it down the sides. You make sure you get at him today. Make sure you're running in behind him. They're the kind of things you say. And maybe they say, look, maybe Van Dijk, he can handle it one-on-one, but he can't get everyone on the pitch. So let's just make Trent pay. Let's make someone pay. Because think about it. If Elanga's going down the left, okay, Trent maybe has to deal with him. Someone needs to help. But then you got Rashford. So then someone would need to help for him as well. And then you've got Sancho. You can't help on all three players all 90 minutes. So that's where we're going to take advantage of them. And then you bring on Martial, who was really looking good. And you've got him saying, I heard Martial. Okay, Martial is injured. But he said Martial showed Salah who's boss. Well, I think he showed United that he's the man to put in that striking position. And, he's the man to play continue playing for Man United. That's for sure.
When he's fit, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Which he isn't this Saturday, so upset again. But you got Paro Miguel saying the butcher of Amsterdam, the slaughterman of Manchester is here. And you got Buzzer Royale saying we're buzzing around their midfield like bees. Eric saying, why do you think Fabinho didn't play? That was a good question, to be fair. You know, and Harry Maguire saying, Cam, a thumbs up. That was a good question. Why did Fabinho not play? I was wondering that. Was he injured? Was he coming back from injury? And they played that midfield, and I was thinking, wow, you've got Fabinho there. You need to play, mate. But anyway, I'm happy he didn't play because we had the better of him anyway. Darren De Jong says, sell Maguire to Liverpool. I wish we could, but I think they've got, you know, better defenders there already anyway. I think Gomez is better, Matip's better, Van Dijk's better. So Kanate is better. So yeah, I think that all their players are better. So there's no point in going there. I'd like to see him go to Chelsea though. I can see him fitting in there in a back three, sitting back and countering people. That would be great.
Yeah, that's what he's good at. In a deep block when he doesn't have to cover big spaces, he's great in the air. I mean, again, that's why Man United signed him. People forget this. Is that because David De Gea is a massive part of why Man United signed Harry Maguire. The reason we signed someone like him is because the season before we were conceding so many goals from set pieces because we didn't have any aerial presence at the back. And the problem is that in that triangle, really, of the keeper and the two centre-backs, two of those three need to be really dominant aerially. De Gea never was. That's a massive part of the problem. If he was a commanding keeper that he came out for crosses, he was active off his line, and it was really sort of someone that strikers feared, we would never have signed Harry Maguire. We could have signed a much more balanced centre-back, someone that didn't have to be one of the best few in the world in the air. We could have signed someone who's just generally quite good all round, and we wouldn't have been in this position now. So it's another one where a smart team probably would have moved on David De Gea a little bit quicker.
Yeah, you know what? I want to give Maguire a little bit of props for when he first started. Because when he first came, that game against Watford at home, away at Watford, I think it was away. Or was it at home when Lukaku scored as well? It was at home. And I watched Man Match of the Day that day as well. And they were talking, you know, they're talking up him a whole lot in that game. Because he did his job. We sat back. He was winning balls. Anything in the air, he was winning it. Ball came into a player with his back to goal. He was right up the back of him winning the ball. But that's what he's about. Exactly what you said. If we were able to continue playing like that, then he would be okay for us. But we're trying to move on to next levels now. And that's why I've just got a thing inside me that, you know, I want to have players that can do the job that we need. And at the moment, there's a good question actually for you. There's a question on here saying, who, in your opinion, Cam, is our best centre-back partnership? I think we've already seen it, but what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we've just seen it this weekend, Varane and Martinez. The only thing is, I think, like you mentioned with Firmino earlier, in terms of him dropping into the midfield, we can talk about the sort of tactical side of that later. But against a big striker, the likes of Nunes, someone like that, if then it does become a problem with Martinez winning duels, then someone else has got to be closer to cover him. So if that becomes a bit of a problem, that's where we might see actually we do need someone with a bit more height. And as bad as it is to say, it is. I think people have made a bigger deal of it than there should be made of it, because it's not like he's sort of like 5'2" or anything, and he is very good in the air. His timing is fantastic. He reads the ball really well, but at the same time, it is a problem if you come up against the biggest strikers. And so it might be the case that in those games we have to play someone else, which is fine.
You know what I noticed when I played against players? One thing I was known for is winning headers. I was like high jump champion when I was at school. I broke a record from like 30 years ago. So I was able to jump real high. And I'm telling you from now, every defender I played against, I beat them in the air. I beat everyone, no matter what size they was. But there was one guy who I've always pointed out who's been the best defender I've ever played against. And that's Sylvain Distin. Absolute beast of a player when he was playing for Everton. He was playing for City. This guy was strong as hell. He's tall, but he can also jump the same height as me. I never beat him on the floor. I never beat him in the air. I scored 2 goals in the game against Everton, but one-on-one, I couldn't do nothing against him. That was the first time I ever was like, oh my gosh, I've just lost a header. When you know you get the best jump ever, there's no one stopping you from running. Your timing's perfect, and he beats me in the air. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm only 5'10", and I won all my headers against 6'4", 6'5". And I believe Martinez is similar type of player in terms of he can win headers. I played with Chris Perry back in the day, and he was similar. he was not a massive defender, but he knew how to time his jumps, and he knew how to make sure the player does. If he's not going to win it, the player's not winning it, or winning a proper header. So Martinez has got that about him, and I don't think we need to really put too much on that, because to be honest, the first 2 goals was De Gea's fault, and the next goal, I can't think anyone who can run backwards and jump in the air anyway, no matter what size you are. So you're gonna get beaten. It's gonna look like you're getting battered at the back post. I don't think really anything really happened when you really look at it that really make anyone think, you know what, Martinez cannot handle this game. It's just the fact that we got battered. It looked like we got battered more than we really did. I was talking to Garth about this earlier. He said that was his worst performance Man United have ever played. And I'm like, but it was 2 bad mistakes, and then it was 2 stupid goals. But what about Brighton last season when we conceded 4 proper goals, ripped us apart? That was a worse performance than Brentford. So I didn't really think too much of this Martinez. Then I also looked at the fact that he's played in the Champions League, played against Haaland, played against your Mbappe's, played against the big boys and done very well. Why can he not handle a Darwin Núñez? If he can handle a Haaland, I think he can handle just about anyone.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is that actually it's not just about winning the first ball. He is good at that. And I think that you compare him to someone like Pau Torres, who we're also heavily linked with for the last couple of seasons. Pau Torres cannot read the flight of a ball. It's a massive problem. He just mentally, he's not able to read it. He'll often go under the ball. He'll go too far back. He'll let it bounce. He's more physical. He's a bit taller, a bit better built, but he can't read the flight of a ball. And that's just as important. And Martinez is fantastic at doing that. I think it's a massive thing. But also, as much as winning the first ball is important, what we've seen against Liverpool is the second balls. And what McTominay's in there to do is run around, win second balls. Same thing with Christian Eriksen. He's good on his feet, able to win those. And the other massive thing, Malacia. Compared to Luke Shaw, he's so much more active, constantly running around, really agile, just constantly changing direction, prepared to work hard in those sort of 3-4 yard sprints, whatever it takes in the smaller distances to go and win the ball. Whereas Shaw very often just leaves it, assumes someone else is going to get it, and he'll start making a recovery run back. And that's the difference between those players. It's massive. It's
chalk and cheese. It's chalk and cheese for me. When I went as far as to say, like, you know, if like Shaw and Maguire play at the back, it makes a massive difference, because when we watched Brighton, I think it was Brighton, first game of the season, I was talking about who was not playing well. And Shaw was chilling all game. He plays within himself far too much. Yeah. But then Maguire, he didn't do anything particularly bad in terms of like glaring mistake. But what I noticed was he gave so much space to players. So as soon as players get on the attack, he drops right off and leaves players to just keep coming at you. I remember Lindelof was out of position. No, it was Dalot who was out of position. And Maguire just kept running back. When you're supposed to like kind of slow up the play so Dalot can get back and get in position. And I was like, why is he doing that? Why are we looking so open? And that, I feel like that was where I was saying Martinez didn't play well that game, 5. Maguire had a 5. Shaw had a 5. Dalot had a 5. I believe they all had, I think even I gave a few 4s there. I think it was for Shaw. But then a few of the other lads were giving like Maguire like 6 and 7. I was like, how? He didn't play well. So it's weird how different people see games. And especially like you, like the way you watch the game and the way you can see all that's going on here. You know, some people don't see it like that, if you get what I mean. They see it as when we're going to get a chance, when we're going to get a goal. And we're looking at it as, you should be there. You should be here. Why are you not anticipating that? Why are you not doing that? So it's nice to speak to you, Cam, to be honest. And it's, you know, just to get your understanding of what's going on behind the scenes and what they're thinking as well. It's nice to speak to you on that kind of level.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're talking about the Brighton game then. I think one of the mistakes that Maguire got heavily criticised for, which actually I don't think was as much his fault as is being made out, was the one when he got booked. So I think he was in a position like this, on the ball, it's been passed out on the edge of the box. And what happened in this position is we tucked in Dalot, as we've done quite a lot this season. He's inverted. And the idea behind, actually, he was sort of here in between the sort of first line of the press and the opposition midfield. And the reason that obviously he's inverted is to offer another option sort of inside. The winger had come in to close that option off. Now, what hadn't happened there was Sancho had stayed really high up the pitch. He'd not dropped in there. And the whole idea of of Dalot tucking in is that it creates space and isolates Sancho 1v1, and it hopefully drags the Brighton player out because they were playing with a back three and they were playing with 4 centre mids. So if you're dragging your player out here, you're dragging one of the centre backs somewhere they really, really don't want to be, a really wide area. So that's what we need to be doing. But Sancho just took far too long to actually realise what had happened. Didn't drop in. And you can see after Maguire's lost it in this position, because the guy's tucked in to cover off Dalot and he's just got on press Maguire. He's looking at Sancho being like, come on, where are you? You've got to be there. You've got to drop in.
Yeah.
Things like that, just they haven't quite fully realised what they need to be doing, haven't quite picked up the cues. But also, again, Brighton and Brentford play different systems to the way we're set up to play. And look, in 6 months' time, that's not an excuse anymore because they should be able to handle it. But at the very start, when you've had a pre-season where, and you built everything you built towards so far is playing against teams with a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, then when you do find something different that early on, the cues are going to be a little bit different. The pictures looks different from the players on the pitch. Things are going to go a bit wrong. And sometimes in cases like that, it'll be Maguire ends up getting booked and it looks really stupid, but actually it probably isn't his fault in that situation. Now, there are a lot of other times when he did make mistakes, but in that sort of situation, he got heavily criticised, and actually it wasn't really his fault.
I don't even remember that one. I thought you was talking about the Brentford one, where I didn't think that was his fault anyway. I just felt, remember when I think Eriksen lost the ball?
You know what? It was Brentford. That one was Brentford.
Yeah, it was that one. Yeah. So you're talking about the same one, yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't Maguire's fault, but the fact that he wasn't so mobile meant that he ended up getting the yellow card. I think that was the case. It's not his fault at all. I think it was Eriksen, who lost the ball. So I would have rather he didn't lose the goal.
So there was the one with the goal where Eriksen lost it, and then there was the one where Maguire got booked, which was pretty similar.
Just before that,
again. And then Gallo tucked in, and Sancho didn't rotate enough. But in that sort of situation, do you think anything to do with it is obviously there's a new manager come in, he's made Harry Maguire captain. Do you think any part of that is Maguire thinking on the pitch, what I've got to do here as captain is absolutely everything the manager wants to the letter, to the point where they probably practiced this pattern and build up a load of times, because it's not something you see every day where your fullback tucks in that much so that you can isolate your winger. But it's something they probably practice quite a lot, and maybe going through Maguire's head there is, right, in this position, this is what I need to be doing. This is what the manager wants from me. So I will wait as long as I possibly can. I hope Sancho drops in so we can execute it. Whereas someone like Varane, who doesn't have that pressure of being captain, maybe in that situation he's thinking, oh, I'm in trouble here. I need to do something. I need to move the ball. Do you think that plays into it, or do you think it's just a big mistake?
No, I think it can play into it because, if a manager's trying to put some new kind of ideas into your head and you keep doing certain things another way that you used to, and then he stops playing training. He says, listen, this is what we're here in training to do. We're here to implement my ideas now. So I don't care if you mess up here on the training field. Let's continue to try and do it that way. I'm guessing that's probably what he's saying. And then it comes to a match day and you see Brentford all right on us, and the goalkeeper standing there with Martinez 1 yard away from him, passing him the ball, and you're going, but then the striker can mark both players. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are we trying to pass the ball to each other for, who's 1 yard away from each other? That didn't make sense. But I think we'll get used to that further down the line. I think I've seen that with Pep when he first joined Man City as well. He was trying to play with, I think it was Sagna. I can't remember the fullback's name anymore, but they had players that couldn't really do that job. And he was trying to shoehorn players into positions to try and, just try and implement his way of playing. And he just couldn't. So then he ended up replacing the players and it happened. But I think that's what happened. They tried to take it literally at times where you think, you know what? He wants me to do this. I know I need to boot it, but this is what we've been playing all week. I need to try and make sure I can do this. And I know I can do it. And then you do it and it gets cut out. And then all of a sudden you lose a goal and then you're way under pressure. And then you don't want to do that football no more because you're like, let me just get back to training and practice this again. I think that's what goes through people's mind. That's what used to go through my mind anyway. When you're trying to learn something new and you're struggling with it, and then you go into a game and then you struggle with it in the game, you kind of like, you need to get back to the drawing board, if you get what I mean, but not while it's in the game. You just want to boot the ball and let's get back to that later on. So that's the kind of feeling I have with that. Let me just read a few more of these comments before we move on. We've got, we had that one already. Van Dijk isn't a spring chicken anymore. I feel he misses Matip. Probably does. Albert Higginbottom says, I'm glued to this. Well, good stuff. King Eric said, Fabinho, I like him in our midfield, of course, but now we've got Casemiro, so we don't need him. And we've got Bruno played a captain's role against Liverpool. Yes, he did. He did. Still a few things I like to see him get rid of in his game. And that is pretending to dive when you know VAR is here, and then pretending to be hurt from a touch in your head. And I don't like that stuff. I really don't. But end of the day, that's what players do sometimes, don't they? To kind of waste time and slow down things, holding on the ball when they scored and all that. You know, what do you think of that then on the Bruno side of things anyway?
I find the diving just as frustrating as everyone else. I think the irritating thing for me more than that, though, is the number of flicks you see him do just on the edge of our box or sort of in our own half. And the one that gets me the most is when there's a throw-in and he sort of drops off to sort of receive it and he just boots the ball up in the air. I've seen it go... It goes right a few times, right? He sort of somehow picks out a nice switch to the other side of other side of the field. But other times it ends up just giving the opposition a chance. They did it a few times last season, and I think we conceded from a couple of them. And other ones we sort of gave away corners or whatever because he just kicked it back towards our own box. It's just like there's no need for that. You don't see De Bruyne doing that. You don't see other sort of similar players doing that. It's just sometimes just keep it simple. I
got an insight into that actually. Because I came through the lower leagues, so I came from the lowest leagues, like Ryman Premier. I went to League One, then League Two, then League One, then Championship, then Premiership. So I've been all the way up from the bottom, and I've seen how everybody plays. And one thing that you do, if you go to a lower league game, when there's a throw-in, all you do is you get up against your man, and you throw it, and you try and flick it on, or the man comes off and he boots it down the line, and the strikers are running after it. And I'm looking at that guy, and when you mentioned that, I was like, Bruno, you're playing like lower league players. You know, like they just get it and put it up the line in the channel, and players are meant to just try and get on the end of it. That's not Man United. That's not, when you get in the Prem, that's not what happens. And another team I played for was Crew towards the end of my career, because Crew had like Dario Gradi teaching all the youngsters how to play proper football. That's the best football I ever played. And I was on my own up front. And I was like, wow, this is great. These boys know how to pop, throw the ball in there, dropping shoulders, moving screens. And I'm like, why have I not learned this before? Like all my years of playing football, why have I not learned a moving screen like this before? These guys are moving all over the place, moving and keeping the ball, making angles that I've never even looked at before. And that's what's done in the Prem only, really. And then you come down the leagues and it's not really done as much. Even in the Championship, it's not done that much. You're still throwing the ball down the line. You're still trying to flick it on. It's only when you get to the Prem that you start seeing people dropping off and really keeping control of the ball, keeping that ball. It's like a chess game. You're not getting that ball. We're moving it. There's a space. Bang, 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 goal. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is different kettle of fish playing against your likes of Liverpool and them boys. But yeah, that's the way I seen it. So yeah, Bruno, you need to fix up, start playing like a Prem midfielder in all areas of the pitch. To be fair, you've got here what you got here. Martial is better than Ronaldo, Haaland, and Nunez. Oh, that's my boy. He was the one calling me. My boy, he's calling me. What picture's that? So he's saying that he's better than the boys. He loves Martial, to be fair. I'm not sure he's better than Haaland, but yeah, I'd take him ahead of the other two if he stays fit all season, that is. Then you've got, what do you think of De Gea performance? Why does Shaw always look like he's not bothered? You want to answer that one? Why does Shaw always look like
the Shaw one? All I can say is I agree. I think probably you do as well. But on the De Gea one, I've criticised De Gea a lot, as some of you might know, in recent times. But I think it was 10 minutes in this game against Liverpool, he comes out and makes a massive clearance off his sweeping, gets there just ahead of the striker, and you can see him as he's running. He's like halfway through, he starts thinking, I'm not going to make this, I'm not going to make it. But he decides, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway. But that was massive. The confidence that gave everyone else straight away was huge.
Yeah.
I think you see Martinez doing his thing with Salah at the start. You see Malacia flying into tackles. You see De Gea coming off his line and clearing things. For the defenders, knowing that they want to hold that high line, they want to be really aggressive in the press. That's massive, having a keeper behind you, knowing that if the ball does go beyond you, there's someone there to sort it out. That's huge. And Varane, straight away, he was giving him applause because he knows that that's hard for De Gea. like mentally, De Gea doesn't read those situations well. He finds it really, really difficult. So to see him doing that, and actually, yeah, on that time he probably shouldn't have come out, but he just about got there first, got away with it. That was massive. I think confidence-wise, that boosted everyone straight away.
Yeah. I thought it was going to get clash with our player at one point. I was like, oh no, please don't. But yeah, I was happy to see him come out. I thought that was Hendo for one second there, because that's what he does. He loves to come off his line and clear those. So that was good. So Alex Carrington-Kino says, my midfield, Casemiro, Bruno, and Fred. Okay, no Eriksen. I understand why you're saying that, because Fred and Casemiro, they're both teammates in Brazil. So I'd probably, you know what, I wouldn't put it past him to play that free on Saturday, because Eriksen played on Monday. You might think, you know what, let me freshen it up a bit and throw Casemiro in for his first game, let him play with someone he knows in Fred, and obviously Bruno being the captain. So that's not, you never know. That could be the team. But I think Eriksen will be used more than Fred. But you know what I like, Cam? I like the fact that we've got all these options now in midfield. It's all of a sudden we've got options. We've got Casemiro, defensive midfielder. McTominay can now come on for him when he's tired and play out them last minutes, or play when he gets tired. So that's not bad. Then you've got in that middle bit, you've got Fred now, Van der Beek, and Eriksen who can play in there. And then you've also got up the Bruno and Eriksen who can play in the attacking midfield, both in that position. So it's kind of looking, and obviously the young boys, we haven't even mentioned them yet. We've got Zidane Iqbal and Charlie Savage. They can come on and actually get involved now. We could find ourselves up 1 or 2-0, 3-0 in games and be able to afford to bring them on and let them, get their minutes in and get used to the Premiership game. I think, what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in terms of the midfield options, something we can talk about later is the sort of effect we'll have from Casemiro. But I think there'll be a big shift in the way we build up and we look in possession now. And it should mean we play a lot more down the wings. And it could mean as well that rather than Bruno Fernandes, if he's not going to fix up those aspects of his game where he's being untidy, we could see Van der Beek playing in the 10 role. So I think we'll see. Actually, you know what? Let's do it now. I think so. What I think is going to happen at the moment this season a lot, what we've seen is we build up in a 2-3-5. So the centre backs at the back in this sort of line here. Then you've got, normally it's been Fred so far through pre-season, although he did put Eriksen in that role against Brentford. Yeah. But you've got Fred in the centre here as sort of the connector player to try and link the defence and the attack. Then you've got the fullbacks on that line as well. Then in front of that, you've got a front five, and I think I've called it a front five here because it sort of rotates quite a bit. It's quite fluid. So it doesn't really matter who's in which position there. But I think what's going to happen now with Casemiro is that rather than having this guy here, who obviously he wanted De Jong to sort of be there to connect the play, be there, getting on the half turn, linking the play, finding players between the lines. Instead of that, what he's going to do, I think, is move to a 3-2-5 instead. So this means create a back three with Casemiro dropping into the centre. And instead of that, I think rather than looking to play through the middle quite so much, I think now what we'll try and do is play down the wings. So a lot of our build-up now will probably be directed to those wider areas. And I think that's a massive part of why we've been backing for Anthony, because he's really good in that sort of situation. He's good if you can isolate him wide, he can get past players, he can help you get the ball up the pitch. So I think that should be happening. And what that should mean as well is that we should see greater relationships, obviously, between sort of the fullback and the wingers working either side, hopefully Sancho on the left side. And if we've got Sancho and Anthony on the wings, hopefully then there's less need for a Bruno here who's going to be making things happen through the middle. We can have someone instead who's more focused on getting in the box and finishing chances. Because obviously Martial, his main sort of forte there is link up. So if we've got someone here who's able to get in the box and finish chances, someone like Donny van der Beek, who can create space for others through the middle, that's what he does. He doesn't sort of attract too much. So he doesn't congest the play. He creates space for others by sort of 1- and 2-touch play. He can be there to sort of help us sort of pop the ball out wide and create stuff through there. But then he can be the one to get on the end and finish things because he's fantastic at timing his runs. His scanning's brilliant. He's always picking up space in the box. So it could be that when we get Anthony and Sancho, hopefully we do on the wings, and we get Casemiro in, and if we change in this way, hopefully we can see Donny, and this could be the chance we get to get the best out of Van der Beek. So I don't know if it will happen, but if it does, it could be fantastic. It could be something different to what we've seen so far, and I'm really excited for what it could bring.
You know what? That's just made me feel great because I've always looked at players, and I always say, like, you need to have the right blend of players to be able to enforce your way of playing, and that there is just, that's what I'm saying. When Anthony comes, I can just see this whole thing going on unbelievable levels to the next level that we need. And I was saying that we don't have a player in the squad that can just pick it up and run past players on their own. Like, just get it to him. Like I said, Maximan, but with a bit more ability about him to have an end product. Imagine having someone like that in your team, as well as all the other players that can absolutely do jobs. So it's just going to be lovely. And then you're mentioning Van der Beek there. A lot of people probably haven't seen Van der Beek as much, but from what I'm hearing from you, it's like you're thinking of him the same way I think of him. He's a link man. His timing is great. He's got the thinking like a Mata, them kind of players where they understand their understanding is of different levels. They understand the positioning of players, the body movement of players, how to take advantage of them making the wrong runs and stuff, and losing, getting out of position and putting the ball into them areas. He's like the pass before the assist, and that is a very important ball. And I think he will do a great job. Exactly what you were saying there. He will do an absolute great job, especially when you got all that stability behind him and people being able to keep the ball under pressure, then him finding it, then finding an Eriksen or a Bruno, and then them front three going to work. It's going to be heaven. I'm telling you, I feel like it's going to be heaven.
Yeah, it really should be. The other thing as well, obviously, if we go to this 3 at the back rather than building up with a 2, is that if we come up against a lot of long balls, which we've seen Brentford sort of undo us with, there's an extra player there, so there's less space for each of them to cover. So we should be better against that as well. So I think all round this is probably a better suited way for us to play. And actually, obviously, the De Jong thing is a bit of a blow. I think in this system, it'd be great as one of these 2 here. But actually, not having him might mean that we end up with a better system for the overall team. So could be a massive boost.
I was about to ask you that, because Casemiro coming in, he's the destroyer sitting in there, and I think that's more suited to the Premiership anyway. If Ten Hag was thinking of putting him central midfield, the same position as Casemiro, I think Casemiro coming in is actually a better addition for the squad. Kind of fluidity and stuff. I think we need that destroyer in there. And I don't think De Jong is a destroyer. He's more of a, ball progressor. He moves the ball and he keeps it under pressure, draws people into him and makes the ball play. But yeah, definitely. And then we already have kind of players that are kind of in the same roles as De Jong that are always playing. So I don't want De Jong coming in and then having to shoehorn the other players. And then we've got 3 kind of flair players in there. It's just, we're going to kill ourselves. And I was thinking the same thing about Eriksen and Bruno coming in and both playing together. I was thinking, is that a bit too much to play both of them? And I was thinking maybe one of them will play and then you'll have another kind of different type of player in there. But I think Eriksen, he's got a bit more about him, so he can play in that deeper role as well. I think Bruno is probably better up, that higher up where he can. If he loses the ball, it won't hurt us so much. And definitely, I think we're definitely looking better suited now. And I just feel like an Antony will just top this all off, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we've got go through the rest of a few more of these comments here. We've got we've already gone through that, haven't we? Great point about Maguire, Cam. Then Mary says Maguire can never play in a Ten Hag team. Do you both agree? To be honest, you know what? It depends how we're going to play, and I think with a lot of stability around him, and now you got Casemiro, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem him playing with this. It's when the whole team is disjointed and we don't have a real way of playing, we don't have a real way of attacking, we'll lose the ball and then we'll obviously get countered. I think he's more suited to being able to play with this team now and slotting in and out every now and again when we get an injury than how it was just before, him being the main man and, then having Shaw next to him. I think he'll benefit from having Malacia next to him. He'll benefit from having, like we said, Casemiro in front of him. That's what we'll benefit from, because we'll have the ball more. And again, we'll hurt teams. We'll be spending more time hurting teams than getting hurt. That's what I think. What do you think on that one, Cam?
Yeah, spot
on. I think the same, yeah. So great point about Maguire. Maguire not capable of playing ball. Yeah, he can play a bit of ball. We know that. Can I ask a question? Klopp is a great manager. Have to admit that. But why was he making Firmino drop so deep? For me, that's how he plays. That's Firmino's game. He drops deep and brings others into play and then comes in at the back of everything when balls get put in and maybe it drops down and he gets his foot on it. That's my point of view. What do you think on that one, Cam?
Yeah, for me, I think Firmino was getting so frustrated on Monday night that the Liverpool midfield couldn't get the ball forwards. They couldn't play through midfield. Everything they did had to be quick balls from the fullbacks out to the wingers because that's all we gave them time to do. We were really intelligent with our pressing setup and we just didn't give them a chance to do what they wanted. So I think Firmino, by the end of the game, was just so, not even by the end of the game, by sort of 10, 15 minutes in, he got so annoyed. He was dropping into these areas. Now, that is his normal game in a lot of ways. And what it does do is it means that there's a sort of 3v2 against the midfield. So obviously he drops in, Salah and Diaz go and push up a little bit higher into the space that he's created. That drags the defenders in. So United defence is nice and deep. And what that typically does is it means there's space for the Liverpool fullbacks on the overlap. So then there's two problems to deal with. Firstly, obviously, we know the Liverpool fullbacks are the main chance creators. So they've got a lot of space and time there. So that's one problem. But then problem two there is that because Firmino's in there, sorry, that should be Bruno higher up on Henderson. Firmino's in that area. Harvey Elliott's in that area as well. And Milner's in that area. So you've got a 3v2 against the midfield there. So actually what it does is because Firmino's dropping in, it gives you an extra number. So hopefully you can try and find the spare man here and play through midfield and get to your dangerous forward players. But also if that doesn't work because the fullbacks have had to come in, there's space and time for these guys out wide. So as you say, yeah, then you can start to look for balls in and Firmino can try and sneak in at the right time to get in something there. But actually the way United dealt with it was brilliant in the sense of what we did was the fullbacks stayed really tight on the on Salah and Diaz. So we didn't actually need the extra centre-back here. So what we did was the fullbacks came in with them when they came in and there was normally Varane in there to cover. And then Martinez will push up on one of the three there. So then we had a 3v3 there as well. So this problem was eliminated. And because of that, then the wingers don't have to track back into midfield. They can sort of get on the fullbacks instead. And then all the problems are eliminated. So I think, yeah, Firmino dropping deep was because he was getting so frustrated with it. But the reason he was getting so frustrated is because United set up really, really well to the point where we didn't have the overloaded they didn't have an overloaded midfield to work the ball through there. Obviously, missing Thiago and Keita, they couldn't play through midfield. But then also they couldn't get the ball out wide. So it was just frustration from Firmino. And because they didn't have any other options, they couldn't really do anything different. So yeah, it was a weird one with Firmino. But to be honest, it got to a point where halfway through, I think Martinez didn't even track him some of the times. He was just coming really deep to about this sort of position. And then you know you've won.
Yeah. One of the things as well, though, as it went towards near the end, obviously we started running out a bit of steam, so we needed to bring on a few fresh legs to try and continue that same kind of play. And that's when they ended up getting that goal in the end. But just good job we managed to hold out and get the win in the end, because it would have been a bit of a disappointment to go 2 up and then it 2-2 in the end. And that's what Klopp was talking about, wasn't it? You guys don't see it like me, but I felt we should have won. I'm like, come on, in the grand scheme of things, Elanga could have scored a goal. Rashford had that chance, which the keeper saved well. We've had the 2 goals. So, yeah, I think we definitely deserve the win.
Yeah, definitely.
Just quickly finish these bits before we go to the attacking side, because we still ain't got to that yet. What we've got, I'm going to disappoint some fans, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bruno was sold. He's a captain. I don't think he's going anywhere. Bruno will never get sold right now anyway. Shaw is done with. Back up now. I hope so. Like I said, James Dixon was saying big up Cam, another legend in the building.
Top man, James.
Yeah, Garnacho needs time. We want to see him, to be fair. I want to see him. Garth wants him in his team for Saturday, to be fair, because Martial's out. He said he wants to see Garnacho start. That would be lovely, but I think we'll probably end up saving him. Ten Hag should give Cam a ring. Just Donny. I agree. Anthony won't come. Anthony's coming. I don't care what happens. I'm not going to say he's not coming. There's nothing in until that window closes. I'm saying he's coming. He's really pushing to make this happen, and I really can't see it not happening. I just think United need to just put whatever they're asking for. If it's 95, pay the 95 and get the job done. Hurry up. Stop wasting our time. Garnacho can do that. Don't underestimate the kid. Yep. What would you do with Cam? We've already answered that one. Wait a minute, what's DVB? What's Donny van der Beek, yeah?
Yeah.
We've already answered that one, haven't we? So
yeah, we have.
Love your stuff, Jamie O. Our press was fantastic. And then Cam the man. Firmino should have gone to Juve. Cam, we should play with a single pivot or double pivot. Should we play with a single pivot or double pivot? That's the last question we've got there. What are you thinking?
That's a difficult one. I think obviously now with Casemiro, I think if there's pretty much any midfield player in the world that can let you play with a single pivot, it's someone like Casemiro. That does help. But at the same time, I think to be a team that can get away with playing with a single pivot, you've got to keep 70, 75% possession every game. I think otherwise you're just exposing yourself too much. I think obviously the way that different managers try to deal with it, some obviously play with inverted fullbacks to try and put an extra player in that area if you're going to go with a single pivot, which, well, obviously that's mainly Guardiola. But, I mean, that does work. But I think for United at the minute, I'd probably rather see a double pivot, just it's a little bit more secure. I think if it's not a double pivot, it would be sort of a single pivot where one of the eights is really, really responsible defensively. As soon as we've lost the ball, he doesn't bother pressing the ball. He drops back straight away. So if we can get something like that, where there's a nice balance going with maybe Bruno and Eriksen, so whichever one's on the side that the ball's lost goes to press it, and the other one slots in immediately. Doesn't worry too much about pressing, but just drops back in alongside Casemiro. I think it can work. But I think in general, for where we are now as a team, until we can keep the ball well enough, probably better off with a double pivot.
Yeah, I'd like to see how we do in possession against a team like Southampton. Now, I want to see us in full control against the lesser teams. Let's say, anyone below like top 4, we should be having more possession. If we then start seeing that, I think we're getting somewhere. We can't be playing. That's why I didn't give such high scores against Liverpool. Although we did very well and we've obviously managed to get the chances and stuff, I think for us to really dominate is to have more of the play against Liverpool. That's why I think there's more room to give higher numbers for these players. So 7s, some players got 8s, but it was 7s and 8s. It wasn't 9s and 10s because I believe that these players have more in them. I've seen Rashford play better. I've seen Sancho. I've seen pretty much most of the players play better than that. So I can't say they got 9s and 10s, but this is what I mean. If they can play like that and keep the ball, like we can possibly do against Southampton, then I'll be giving 9s and 10s. So that'd be good. And Delo was good against Liverpool, was quality. Right, let's get into the attacking side of things with the front 3. What you thought about those, how they got on, and obviously what you thought about those from pre-season as well. Because these 3 looking very, very good. Martial, Rashford, Sancho, they're looking very good. And then it's the question of, if Ronaldo comes into that, how will it look? How will it change when we play other teams? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think our best front 3 is Sancho. Right now is Sancho, Martial, Rashford, if they're all fit, if they can all play. But I think one of the strange things I've seen with Sancho is that obviously, looking at Diogo Dalot's strengths, the thing he's probably best at is it's a bit of a weird one. He's often misunderstood because he's not the sort of player. Final third, his crossing was okay when we first bought him, but it seems to have just gone downhill since. Now every time he puts in a cross, it goes into row Z or it goes out for a throw on the opposite side, or it's horribly overhit. His crossing's not great, but what he is good at in possession is when he gets into these sort of positions here, he takes up space beyond the first line of the press. When he tucks in, because he's 2-footed, he's press resistant, he's able to progress the ball. He can be that link. And a lot of times, actually, through pre-season, we saw him being a better link in that area than sometimes Fred and McTominay were. So that's what he's really, really good at. Now, the problem with that is that if you're doing that, you're isolating this winger against the fullback 1v1. If you've got Anthony and you're isolating him 1v1 against the left back, 9 times out of 10, that's a great thing to be doing. The thing is, Sancho, he's not quite explosive enough. He's not really got the pace, and he's not really that good 1v1. What you want to be doing with Sancho is put runners around him. So we're almost, the way it's been working with Dalot tucking in, we're almost doing the exact opposite of what we need for Jadon Sancho. He needs runners, and we've given him none. I think if he's got Martial here, and if he's got Rashford there as well, then I think it's a little bit different. And it will help him a little bit. But if he's playing with Ronaldo here, for example, and he's got Dalot tucking in, we're taking one of our best players that we bought for £100 and something million, and we're seeing what his strengths are, how he fits best in the team, and just ignoring that, ripping it all up because we need to play this way. It's a tough one. We're throwing Sancho's strengths out the window for Diogo Dalot, who, yes, he's very good at doing that, but it's not really the trade you want to be making. So we need to get Sancho on the left as quick as we can.
Yeah, I believe so as well, because Malacia overlapping and that kind of partnership will be absolutely amazing. And like you say, Anthony, if he comes on that side, he can do it on his own. So you just want to get him isolated on his own and to take people on like for fun. And that's where when we see Sancho actually played very well last year when he was on the left, cutting in and getting some goals as well. And then he's got the option of sliding in Malacia or cutting in himself and doing bits and linking with the striker. So that's exactly what we want to see. And you mentioned that as well. I was talking about, certain you know, he was mentioning about him not playing to his strength, us not playing to his strengths. That's a lot of the reason why so many of players that have joined us have not done well. So many players have not been put in a position to play to their strengths. And you don't spend that amount of money and put so many players out of position. It's been unreal. It's been a crime, to be fair, that managers can come and bring in that amount of players and then just not play them or put them in the wrong positions. It's like Mata, for example. Why was Mata not played in a Bruno position the whole time he's been here? Like when he was here. If he played there, he would have done so much more for us. But instead, we put him on the right wing and expect him to beat players. And you think, why is he cutting in all the time? Because he's not a player that's a winger. He's not like it. He's not even like a, Silva, Bernardo. It's not like Bernardo. Bernardo's a dribbler. He loves dribbling. He's not the fastest, but he's got that thing where he can see your body movement. And as soon as he can see you move wrong, he's gone. And he looks like he's going to take you down the line. And you're like, you can't take me down the line. And he'll just take you down the line because you think you can't take him. He's one of those players. I love that. But Mata didn't have that. Sancho, like you say, he's a link man. So if you've got no one to link with, not going to do the job with you. Cristiano up front. He's no longer that player who can pick it up and do whatever he wants on it. He needs the ball in the box. And that's another reason why, when we was after Harry Kane, I was like, I don't want to see Harry Kane in this side because he needs people to supply him and we can't supply at the moment. Why are we going to bring a player like that in? We're going to dry up all his goals. What for? We know he's a 30-goal-a-season man, but in United's team, the way it was last year, he'll be a 10-goal-a-season man all day, and I wouldn't have been happy. So, yeah, glad you mentioned that about certain players and about how they play. Sorry, you could carry on.
No, that was it. No, spot on.
Okay, good. Right, so we're at 56 minutes already. Wow, that's gone quick, and everybody's loving it. Do you fellows think Sancho doesn't do enough work off the ball? We don't want Sancho defending. Ooh, well, if you're asking me, I think he does a lot of work. When he was at Dortmund, that's what he did. He played very well. He was very direct, and players found him whenever he made the runs. I saw many a times last year when he made runs and nobody could even see him. And he's probably thinking, bloody hell, this is not like Dortmund. If I had a Bellingham behind me or I had a Royce I'm playing with, or, these players who are behind me, they know what I need. And that's why he done so well for Dortmund. And he came to United, he's probably sitting there. I was actually thinking, whenever I look at Sancho, while we was having those bad times, I was looking at him thinking, I bet you're thinking, I can't believe I came here to this kind of football. This is very tough. It's not my way of football. And I'm now getting talked about like I'm some nobody and I'm a player. I just need to be played the right way. And it hurts. It hurts me watching him. When players say he's not that good. I was on YouTube the other day and some guys were talking about he's just this guy now. He's not that good and he's come and he's relaxed now because he's got Man United back to Man. No, he's trying to do his thing, but he's just not there. So 1 second, go on. You go.
That's all right. Yeah. So in terms of like the defensive side of it, for me, I think it depends what you mean off the ball, whether you mean sort of when we've got the ball, but it's with a different player. So Sancho's off the ball, but with United have got the ball as a team, or if you mean defensively. I think for me, defensively, against Liverpool, he did a brilliant job, but sometimes he can be a bit lazy with his tracking back. And look, one of the biggest things is that for the rest of the season, when in games where we don't have only 30% possession and we're defending most of the time, in games where we've got most of the ball, can Sancho be trusted to get back and help out as fullback? Can he be trusted to constantly get behind the ball and help out? Because that's what he's got to do. I mean, you look at teams like City and Liverpool, when they lose the ball, it's not just the back four defending. It's not just the back four and Rodri or the back four and Firmino. It's the whole team get back behind the ball because in every single game, doesn't matter which team you are, even if you're Man City, the opposition is going to have a 5 to 10 minute spell of possession where they start putting some pressure on it in every single game that they play. Even if they play a League Two team, it happens every single game. So these guys have got to get to the point where Sancho, Rashford, Garnacho, whoever it is, they've got to get into their minds that you've got to constantly be tracking back. You cannot just be saving your energy for attacking. You can't be lazy because if you want to win things, you've all got to help out. And for me, Sancho, it's interesting actually. He's got some decent numbers for interceptions. He's got some all right numbers for the number of blocks he makes. But in terms of I think against Liverpool, he did a great job tracking back, but generally I think he can do a bit more. And definitely the same with Rashford. Actually, the best one we've had on the left wing recently is actually when Martial's played there. He tracks back pretty well, but obviously because when we've got the ball and he's playing striker, he doesn't always come alive. People think he's lazy, but he's actually much better at tracking back than Rashford is a lot of the time. So that's an interesting one as well. In terms of Harry Kane being great at United, yeah, I think for me as well, I think now, link-up wise, he's improved so much in that. But I see what Nathan was saying as well in terms of, I think in the team we had last season, he would have been so frustrated. He would have had a really hard time with it.
Yeah, it would have been a nightmare. But bloody hell, that was some going through what United have got. I hope everybody enjoyed, obviously, hearing all of that. Any last comments on what you think? Obviously, we've got the game tomorrow. I'd like to hear what you think is going to happen and what you think that he's going to go with, what team you think he's going to go with before we wrap this up. What's your thoughts on tomorrow?
To be honest, tomorrow I'm just excited for it. I think right the way through, even the Brentford and Brighton games, I think what we've seen in that, in terms of there wasn't much that was positive, but I think we did move the ball a lot better than we've seen in the last season or two. I think the sort of 1 and 2 touch play, and when we did get up the pitch, we kept the ball a lot better, sustained our attacks a lot better. And when we did lose the ball, the pressing initially, the intensity was there at the very least for the first few seconds. I think there were some gaps in it, but that will come with time. But the intensity was there. So I think I'm excited to see now how they go from taking the energy from the Liverpool game into this and see if they can keep moving the ball better and have some of the defensive side of the game there as well. So I'm just, to be honest, I'm not, prediction-wise, I'm going to sit on the fence. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm just excited to watch it again. I think people always say don't bet on the early kickoff. So, yeah, it could be a shock result. But in terms of team selection, probably De Gea and the same back four against Liverpool. I hope it is anyway. In front of that, I expect to see Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno. Quite attacking, but I think Ten Hag will do that. He's shown he's not afraid to take risks in these sorts of games, especially against Brentford. And then on the wing, Sancho and probably Elanga and Rashford up top, given that Martial's injured.
Okay. I've gone with Casemiro coming in for McTominay. And then I've gone with actually Cristiano playing up front tomorrow, because I don't see him keeping him on the bench the whole time. I think he might give him a chance this game. It's a different type of game. I think we should be in control of the ball more with the kind of football he expects us to be able to play. And I think that will mean that they will sit back more, and we'll need to have someone in the box if we're going to cross balls in, especially if Martial is out. I think Elanga may be nullified in a game like that where there isn't much space in behind. And I think maybe Cristiano might come into the game and play more. So I think that's going to be the way it goes. And I think we'll win the game 2-0, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, Rashford usually scores at St Mary's, doesn't he? So that's a good start. And then I think sometimes, to be fair, Southampton do press quite high. So hopefully there is space for Elanga if he plays. If not, then could be Cristiano.
I hope so. But anyway, I don't mind who plays, to be fair. As long as that back four stays intact, I'm very, very happy. And Casemiro comes into the middle. I think we'll have enough no matter what there. We'll be able to fend them off, and we'll have enough to get at them. And with all the options coming off the bench as well, I think we'll have a lot. We'll have enough. So, yeah, I'm really excited. We've got evening from Dubai now. Keep McTominay in the side, bring Casemiro on half-time. I understand that as well, because he did play well. And then it might be just a thing to, bleed in Casemiro. But again, he's a £70 million player, Champions League winner every year. I don't see him needing to be bled in. He probably needs to just jump in and get stuck in. I think that's probably what will happen. But what do I know? Made a few mistakes recently already, so it's probably going to be. I think Casemiro. You think Casemiro. Most of us think Casemiro is going to start. So yeah, but again, this has been amazing. Thank you, Cam, for coming on the show. It's been absolute great seeing your insight into exactly what happens on the pitch and what goes on in people's minds, most probably. And I'd love to have you on again, and hopefully we'll get the win tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd love to be on again. Cheers for having me on. It's been great. Hope everyone's enjoyed it as well.
Thanks a lot, guys. Well, stay safe and wash your hands. See you soon.